Alrighty, Ethan. Well, we'll move on to Defensive Player of the Year. I'll let you start
Mm,
out with this one.
this was a really tough choice. I'm going to go with Jeremy Sohan because he was drafted because of his defensive versatility. He proved that it was not a fluke, something that, because a lot of times guys are great defenders in college because they're guarding substandard players. But he was taking the primary matchup every single night. LeBron, Kawhi, John Morant, it didn't matter. Guard, center, power forward, whatever it was. He was able to guard them. He didn't lock them up every time, but he improved slowly. We talked about that Julius Randle game where Julius hit him with two rip throughs right in back to back possessions. The third one, he got an offensive foul. It's those little things that he slowly
Mm-hmm.
got better at. Um, and when he wasn't on the court, it was clear that we were missing a defensive anchor.
Mm-hmm. Especially when he first got hurt, bro. I
Yes,
remember the glaring difference. It was so tough to watch that stretch.
yeah, it was. And so without him there, that's enough proof. I mean, Devin Vassell had kind of an argument, but he was out too many games,
Yeah,
and Jakob Pertl obviously was traded, but he also could have had an argument had he stayed the whole year.
right. And so my pick's also Jeremy Sohan for Defensive Player of the Year for the Spurs, and it's just bluntly because of kind of what we were just talking about, but
Yeah.
also his versatility as a defender. Like even though Devin did average a steal in the 56 games he played this year, I think it was around there. Might have been a little bit less than that, but he did average a steal this year. 56 is actually what Sohan played. That's the number that
Mm.
was sticking in my mind. But he was just the most versatile. Like Sohan can guard guys that Devin can't. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
like Sohan has the potential, if we're playing a small ball team, to be able to guard 1 through 5. We knew that his biggest, the thing that immediately translated to the NBA for Sohan was his defense. You know,
Hmm.
we saw that from game one, where his offense, we obviously saw it flourish and his free throw shooting and all that stuff, but that took a little bit more time where his defense immediately translated. So yeah, and another good point, like you said, on Jakob getting traded and then Devin being injured. Those are also two key things
Hmm.
whenever it comes to that. So because of those circumstances, I think he's the obvious Defensive Player of the Year. And I'll go ahead and start this one off with the next one because I'm going to pick the same player, Ethan,
Mm.
for Rookie of the
Yes.
Year. Obviously, Malaki had a great season, but if we're being just, completely objective here, we saw Sohan's potential this season. I mean, he talked about how he just fills roles. He wasn't a scorer at all at Baylor, and he
Hmm.
was able, after, like we said, making a little bit of that transition and learning a little bit, he was able to score in bunches
Yeah.
at times. It was like it came out of nowhere, Ethan. Like his scoring ability and the way that he was able to score, it was like this is not something that popped up on the Baylor tape. I mean, there were a little bit of some translations, I guess you could say. But really, I mean, it was like he said in the press conferences, like I filled roles. Like I was supposed to be an energy guy at Baylor. Now that Pop asked me to score a little bit, I'm gonna go do it. So I mean, the fact that he was able, like, I mean, I could talk about his playmaking, the way that he puts his hands in passing lanes. His 3-point shot improved as the year went on. I know there's still a lot of work that needs to be done there, but the fact that there were improvements, that's a good sign. It just feels like he can get better everywhere. Like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
only way I can describe it.
Yeah. Sohan's made incredible strides during the season, stuff that I had never seen prior to this
Right.
year. To be able to get that much better in so many categories in the middle of a season is crazy. But just to give Malachi some love, I'm going to pick Malachi. I would also pick Sohan, but Malachi is a really close second because he also improved tremendously from day one. Somebody that didn't
Hmm.
really get that many minutes in the first half of the season, and with the loss of a couple guys due to injury and other reasons, he was able to kind of fill in that spot as a six man and as a starter. He
Yeah.
developed as an outside shooter. At first, that was a struggle. It was really
Yep.
flat. He slowly tweaked it a little bit, got a little more arc on it, and he became a big threat from that range. And when we needed scoring, especially toward the end of the year, he showed us he had a lot more to his game. Stuff that he was doing in Ohio State, getting into that mid range area, pulling up off of screens, posting up. He had a much better ball handle than I was expecting coming in at this point in the season, and a terrific finisher around the rim. He can finish among the trees. He's able to draw
Yeah.
contact and finish through contact, which
Needs
I
to
didn't
help our guy
expect.
Blake out, man.
He does need to help Blake out, and I hate to not give Blake any love here,
Right.
but he's just he was two way for majority of the season,
He's
and he
just
just
still
still hasn't.
developing.
Yeah, but as far as rookie of the year is concerned, it's no question. It's either Sochan or Malaki, depending on what kind of flavor you're looking for.
Well, Ethan, I'm gonna one up you here
Mm.
because sixth man of the year is my next
Ah,
award, and that's what I gave to Malachi. I planned it
yes,
out.
yes.
Led all rookies in scoring in February.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
for all of like, look, if you just look at the stats and you're like, Sohan averaged 11, Malachi averaged 10, it doesn't
hmm.
look like much. But in the context of the Spurs system, both of these guys being 19 on the Spurs, I mean, that doesn't
Yeah,
happen. And I know that it's this season, but like still, the way that both of them flourished and you could see it was like obvious progression on the
yes,
television screen if you watched consistently throughout the year. And the fact that it was so obvious and they just got better in the areas that they had strengths. And it kind of showcased some strengths when they improved in certain areas. Um, like I said, there's really not much else to say. And talking about Malachi for six man, the reason I gave him six man of the year is just because he came off the bench a lot and he was our main scorer in a lot of those situations. So
mm,
for him to run the backup point for a little bit this year as well, he had to play a lot of different roles. And while he did start this year, spent most of that time off the bench and off the bench. Sometimes he was an off ball shooter, sometimes he was the point guard, but he adapted and got better in both of those roles. So I just love him as a combo guard moving forward. And because he's 6'5", we've played him at the three a little bit. I don't think that's where he's primarily going to play, but with injuries and, maybe if we're playing a small ball team, he's also versatile in that way too.
yeah. I would go with Malachi as well, and I already spoke to all the positives that I had to say about him. But to echo what you said, completely forgot. Pop gave him the ball and let him be a playmaker as well, and he showed. At first, it was a struggle, but he showed glimpses of being able to be that sort of Manu Ginobili role. I don't think
Right.
he has that passing gift that Manu had, but to come off of screens and be able to play make for others, or find his own shot in creative ways, um, definitely something that we didn't have outside of him.
Yeah, man, that the way that he comes off of screens and
Mm,
that pull up mid range jumper near the elbow
yeah.
it just turned into butter as the season went on. I love watching me some Malachi pick and rolls and some pull up jumpers. And like Swatcho Bros just said, if he gets a pull up 3-pointer, then he is going to be a lights out scorer for
Yes.
sure.